Well, hello. We're back again. You know,
Looks like the host went out. Not sure.
hello. Sorry about that, folks. A little technical difficulties, but I got it all together. So we're back again with another great episode of the Chatterbox with King Jacob, and I am yours truly, King Jacob, and I have a special invited guest. Nice topic: surviving domestic violence. When it comes to that sector, I've learned a lot in recent years about domestic violence, and it's a lot to learn. From a male of my perspective, who's never been through it, never committed it, and they honor and respect my queens, because they are the mothers of the earth, and I give them much respect, much love, and much gratitude. So without further ado, I would like for my guest to introduce herself so the audience can get very familiar with her and so you can understand who she is and what she stands for and understand, that this show tonight has its divine purpose, and we're going to educate, we're going to uplift, and we just going to heal together. That's all it is. So without further ado, I'll let her introduce herself.
Well, I first want to say hello to your audience out there, to the Chatterbox with King Jacob audience. Good evening to you. And we certainly thank you for staying up this late for some of us old timers. Thank you for staying up with us. So, certainly, I am author Iris J. Benton. I'm from Concord, North Carolina. I am a three-time author, writing my first ever novel in my life in 2015, depicting my own story, telling my own story of how I survived domestic violence. Um, I also went on to win the 2017 Author of the Year award with that title, Breaking His Silence through the Queen City Awards, which was phenomenal. So I encourage people to tell your story, write your story. You never know whose life you're going to save by sharing and being open to tell your story of domestic violence. Um, I am now an advocate against domestic violence, doing my trainings through the Mecklenburg County Community Support Services there in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm also a member of the North Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence, located in Raleigh, North Carolina. I attend trainings throughout the year. The thing about domestic violence, King Jacob, is that it's ever evolving. This is something that happens every single day. It doesn't get a holiday break, it doesn't get a day off. There's no time lapse in it. So we, myself and other advocates, we are constantly having to be in trainings and getting information every single year because there's always laws are changing, policies are changing. One of the biggest things that we know is that with the state of North Carolina, there's something called the VAWA Act, and it's violence against women. And in some of those cases, sometimes lawmakers are taking rights from victims. Things are changing with court cases. Things are changing how domestic violence is viewed in certain states and certain cities. So we as advocates, we have to stay abreast, and continue to get those trainings as often as we can, so that we can help those that are referred to us. And we always want to be on top to make sure that victims are safe, and we keep them alive.
Okay, great, 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 great. We thank you for the introduction. So, where I want to start at about domestic violence, you know, what is domestic violence? How does it happen? And how do the person who's going through domestic violence face reality?
Those are simply great questions. So number one, the correct term and terminology and meaning and definition of domestic violence, which is what I want people to know tonight, is one, domestic violence occurs when one person in a relationship systematically attempts to gain coercive power and control over the other by using physical, sexual, emotional, or material force. So when we say it's systematic, it's a system. It's a system. So domestic
Mm-hmm.
violence will never start as physical. It's never going to start as physical. It may start as emotional. It may start as verbal, which in my case, um, I'm a two-time survivor. So remembering my first case of knowing I was in a domestic violence relationship was with my ex-husband. And so with his abuse, it started out more emotional because he was a cheater. Okay. He was a cheater. He was a habitual cheater, which caused me to be emotional all the time. Right. So then after the emotional abuse with him, by me finding out about the other women, about me confronting him about the other women, then it became physical. Okay. So there is a system that's why we call it systematically. So it will never start out physical. It could, but in most cases that we study and we know, it's always usually going to be reversed. Okay. And then the physical comes in somewhere in the middle. Okay. The physical come in. So that is the clear definition of domestic violence. And really, if we're going to put all of what I just said under an umbrella, we'll just combine two words to define it all. Domestic violence is about power and control over one partner to the other. So everything I said about the emotional, the physical, I didn't even get into the sexual, I didn't get into the financial, that may come up, but all of that in the umbrella, under that one umbrella, is about power and control that's coerced by one partner to the other. You asked the question, how does one acknowledge it? Number one, you have to recognize it, okay? Until you recognize what the domestic violence aspects are: physical, verbal, emotional, sexual, financial, mental. That's the psychological part of it. Then you're able to say, okay, I am clearly in a toxic, unhealthy, violent relationship. When I say violent, the violence follows the physical. Okay. Abuse is the sexual, which could also fall under the umbrella of physical. And then you have the emotional, the mental, the psyche of it. Those are all considered to be abuse. Okay. But so when I say violent, I'm talking about the physical, the hitting, the punching, the kicking, the spitting, the pulling, the burning, the beating, uh, all of that. All of that follows under the physical spectrum of domestic violence. So Number one, a person has to understand, and how do they acknowledge it? By recognizing, first and foremost, that they are in a toxic, unhealthy relationship.
Okay, so we're going to break it down on different levels, and we're going to educate the audience, and we're going to educate whomever wants to know about it. So um, the first thing that I would like to really break down is the red flags before you enter a marriage of domestic violence. And when I say red flags, I mean no he or she hasn't. First of all, I want to say that domestic violence doesn't have any discrimination. Women go
What?
through it, but men go through it too. But
Yeah,
but men don't want to speak up because
right.
we they have that pride,
Yeah,
that macho just about them,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they feel like the other men are going to clown them. So for one, men do go through it.
yeah,
And another thing I might want to add is um, the red flags when you're in a relationship, and you may be engaged to get married to that male or female, but the red flags are really still there with the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, the mental abuse, and most of all, the most damaging part of the abuse, in my opinion, is the spiritual abuse.
yeah.
To make her
Yeah.
or him think that God don't love you, God don't care nothing about
Mhm,
you, um,
mhm,
or for somebody to say, if somebody has went through something with their parents, why you think somebody love you? Hell, your mom and daddy left you. So
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
I can
you're on
only
it. You're on
I love you, but at the same time, you don't love yourself. So I gotta treat you how you treat yourself.
it.
So
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they say this, they have already scoped you out mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. They already know that you're damaged and you're hurt already. And so they
mhm,
know that you may not can think for yourself. So that control and that power factor comes in. And so after we chime in on that, we're going to go down to breaking the levels of domestic violence. So chime in on that for me,
okay.
please.
So great start to this show. I love it because red flags are always going to be visible. They're going to be audible. Red flags are always going to be the first sign that the person is toxic, right? So I'm glad you brought that up. So red flags can come in so many categories. But I love how you said that a person can kind of identify or recognize a weaker vessel. How do they do that? By testing you, right? So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to see
Mm-hmm.
how far they can go with you. What can I say? What can I do? And if that person allows me to get away with it, then it's coming again because they've already tested you. You've already failed the test because number one, what
Mm-hmm.
we say. We never really leave a person that starts with the red flags because we are, well, let me say this, women, we're innate creatures by the divine, the great divine, to nurture everything. We nurture pain. We nurture problems. We nurture sickness. We nurture people altogether that mistreat us, right? So by nature, by divine nature, we give people second, third, fourth, and fifth chances all the time. So how do we recognize red flags? Number one, when a person tries to control everything about you. We can start with a female, okay? From a male to a female. A male can say something like, I don't like your hair. Uh, I think you should cut your hair, or I think you should wear your hair this way or that way, right? And so to a woman, quite naturally, that may sound flattering, or she may be like, well, maybe he's right. And so then we start changing our hair to suit what that person likes. Okay. Again, I said she may take it as flattering. Okay. Number two, why do you hang out with
Right.
that person? I don't like your friends. Okay. I don't like your friends. And something like you said earlier, they don't do nothing but talk about you. They're not your real friends. So listen very carefully. When an abuser starts to talk about your friends and your family, there is an agenda to that. So if I can say your friends don't do nothing but talk about you, they're not really your friends. I don't know why you hang out with them, or even may go as far as to say one of your friends been trying to hit on me, or they like me, blah 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 blah. And when you said when it comes to family, well, nobody in your family cares about you at this level. The abuse has probably already become physical. Okay. So, what the agenda is to the abuser or the perpetrator is he's trying to essentially isolate you. He's trying to isolate you from family and from friends. So, when the physical abuse starts or is getting worse, you're so ashamed and you've already embedded in your head that he's told you they don't love you, they don't care anything about you, they talk about you. So why in the world would I tell them that he's abusing me? You see? So there's always an agenda with an abuser. So that is a part of the isolation process, is to get you to turn against your friends and your family and to make you think these things. Interesting that you said that, King Jacob, because with my second abuser, that's exactly what happened. I had a best friend, very close to my mother, come from a loving family, come from a good stock, good background. And but my abuse with him had already turned physical. We went from verbal. He started out with verbal abuse, and then we went into the mental. We'll talk about that when we break those down. And then it went into the physical. So by the time he started physically abusing me, putting his hands on me, punching me in the face, slamming me on the ground, throwing me down a flight of stairs, all of that, now I'm shamed. Now I can't call my mama and tell her this because already in my mind, I don't think that she cares, or, nobody cares about what he's doing with me. And the fact that I'm still with him when this happened, right? So those are very, very valid things. But red flags come in so many formulas. You have to watch what they say, how they say it. Even if somebody says, girl, you need to go lose some weight. Girl, you this and that. And then you start feeling the low self-esteem, the low conscience come. But then watch this. But then they'll say, I was just playing, girl. I didn't mean that. You I didn't mean that. Or vice versa to a man. She can emasculate him and make him feel less than. She can make him feel like he's unworthy. He's not worth anything. Or trying to compare him to another man, just emasculating who he is. And so now he's feeling like low self-esteem. He's feeling less than a man. And so that's kind of how those tables reverse when you get a female abuser, right? She's gonna put him down on all levels. She's gonna put him down on all levels, okay, to make him feel like crawling under a rock. But at the same time, she's controlling him as well. Something you said earlier to men out there. I want you to know that we have not forgotten about you. We care about you. We love you, because men do get abused. So you said you're right. They're not going to go to their buddies and say, man, and you might be like, dude, how you get that black eye? And he's going to lie and say, I ran into the wall. I was with my son at baseball practice, and the baseball just randomly hit me. And so with both genders, we always try to make up excuses about the bruises. Okay, I was one of those. I even masked a lot of my bruises by wearing a lot of makeup. You know, whenever my lip was busted, I would cape on the gloss or the lipstick trying to cover, and I always, and I would always keep my hand over my mouth like this, you know. But nobody really, recognizes that. So so tonight I'm kind of giving you a demonstration, My mouth busted and I'm always talking to you like this. Okay. Someone who has the black eyes, they're gonna cape all of that makeup on. You can kind of tell when she's overpowered her makeup versus like this. This is just really a really soft look for me tonight versus if I were going to get a face, like a makeover, it would be different. But this is me. This people that know me, this is a soft look for me. But if I come out and I'm looking like a drag queen, take note to that. Take something is different about her. Something is different about him. But we live in a society that is so fast. Everybody's super busy. Our attention is on social media. Our attention is on things that are happening on the news. Our families are, and we overlook some of the most simplest things about an abused person because we're super busy. But the red flags are always going to come into play. Red flags is jealousy. The number one, listen, when you're dating someone, if you're going out with somebody, and if you've already taken that step, you're married, but they're constantly just jealous of everything you do, that is a red flag. And a jealous person is a dangerous person. So jealousy is a red flag. Verbal is putting you up, putting you down, saying I'm kidding, I'm just joking. Red flags. If you're dating someone and there are multiple partners, meaning he's a cheater, and these women are trying to kind of let you know, some may reach out to you, some may not, but you just kind of take note of, you know when somebody's cheating, you know when somebody's doing something. Red flag. And then on that note, a lot of times a red flag is when they accuse you of doing things you're not doing, right? Essentially, that means that's what they're doing. But they're trying to accuse you so that it kind of takes the spotlight off of them. Because now you're sitting and thinking about the accusations against you, and you're trying to put all of this together when in actuality, that's what they're doing. Those are huge red flags. Huge. A person that monitors your phone. A person that wants a code to your phone. A person that's just constantly watching your phone. Or check this out. Who you talking to? Or why they calling you? Who that calling you? Why they calling this time of night? Why they calling this time of morning? Huge red flags. Nobody, listen, married, single, everybody has privacy, right? Now, me as an advocate, I have phone numbers in my phone for some of my clients, or, it's not for everybody. So nobody needs to be going through my phone, seeing who I'm talking to, who I'm texting. Listen, I want to say this while we're on red flags. Stalking. When you have somebody that constantly stalks you, whether they are watching your phone, monitoring where you go, how long you go, when they question you, where you going, how long you going to be there, and they're following you just to make sure you're there. This happened to me. I was hanging out with a girlfriend, and I told him where I was, and he showed up. So stalking, monitoring your phones, your friends, again, telling you how to dress, how to wear your hair. Also watch people in public when you're around people. How do they behave when you all are around your friends? How do they talk to you? How do they treat you? You know what I'm saying?
Right, right, right.
So red flags are plentiful, plentiful. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but those are the ones that I would
So,
most definitely say watch for. Jealousy,
okay,
stalking,
so,
controlling you
mhm,
and what you do and who you do it with. Those are definitely red flags.
right. So, I want to make 2 points before we go on to the breakdown. Um, I want to say that I was talking to a young lady out of Memphis, just doing some networking with her, because I try to open up my network in different places and things of that nature. So I told her I was doing this show. So she was like, Jacob, I want to make a point about your show. She said, in her past, she said, I'm going to tell you about one of my relationships. She said, he stalked me until I gave in. And then once I found out who he was, he tried to kill me. I said, so what do you mean he stalked you till you gave in? When she said, when we first met, it was on friendship, right? So when he found out that I was interested in someone else and I didn't look at him like that when I put him in the friend zone, that's when the stalking came. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, if he's on me like this or he's taking his time to, to keep calling me, to keep texting me. So he must really like me. He must really see something that he want. And she said, boy, Jacob, was I wrong? This was one of the worst mistakes of my life. So when you say that stalking, yeah, and it's crazy that people would think that way and have ulterior motive for a whole 2 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said it took him a whole 2 years to even get next to me. So, when you say that stalking, that stalking has a wide range of how it
Yeah.
can go, you know. So, I just want to chime in on that. And let's talk about
I
domestic
wanna just
violence.
stop right there. Yeah, before we go on to the other part of this. So as I'm listening to you, that's very true. That when you said the ulterior motive, what you have to understand is he was a serial stalker. Okay, there are things he stalked
Hmm.
her about that she's even unaware of. He could have had a tracking on a phone, could have had a tracking on a car, could have had cameras in the house. You understand? I know of a situation where someone had a camera in the home that the person was unaware of and watched her every move while he was at work, heard phone conversations while he was at work. These are serial stalkers and these people are very dangerous. Okay. Now, when you
Right,
said she
right.
gave in, she has to ask herself, why did I give in? How much power did he have over me that I knew he was stalking me and I knew what he was capable of, but I gave in? So, and I'm not even blaming her, but I'm saying these are questions that we have to ask
Hmm.
ourselves. What caused me to give
Hmm.
in? What was going on with me? So much so that I would settle and I would just give in to a person like that, right? Also, I want to say this
Hmm.
really quick to everybody out there, everybody that's on tonight. When you meet people, you've got to take your time to get to know somebody because number one, we all come in fabulous, honey. We all come in with our best behavior. Nobody is coming to the table saying I'm an abuser. Nobody's coming to the table saying I'm a sexual assaulter or I'm a rapist. Nobody does that. We're all charming and on our best behaviors, right? Because they said the first impression is the best impression. You want to make that lasting impression. So
Hmm.
yeah, hey, yeah. So I'm going to be on my absolute best behavior. But inside of me, see, what we have to understand, King Jacob, that this is already in a person. When you meet them, when you meet them, it's already in them, because you're not the first person that they've ever abused. And you're not going to be the last person unless true intervention come in. And we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But so nobody comes with an A on their head saying I'm an abuser, I'm a stalker, I'm a, you know, if and this is a documentary that I have longed for, that I really want to put together. I just got to find a team, King Jacob, filmers, people who know how to film, document. One of the things that I want to film is families that have lost their loved ones, right? Because every story that I will document and film, they're going to have similarities. And you know what those similarities are going to be? The red flags, the red flags, the red flags, the red flags. And each of those victims never thought, and I'm talking about the people that were murdered, the people that were killed, never in a million years did they ever think that that partner or that lover would have killed them. Never. And I think I'm going to name it If I Could Talk to the Grave. That's kind of, if I could talk to those, if the grave could talk back, he or she would have said, I never thought that that person I loved was capable of killing me. I'm here to tell you tonight, to everybody that's on here, this is a very serious topic. I don't take it light. You can never underestimate a person. I don't care how much they tell you they love you. And number one, when a person tells you they're going to kill you, believe them. There's so many victims that the abuser has told them, I'm going to kill you. Prime example, just 2 weeks ago, right in the city of Gastonia, North Carolina, a young mother lost her life to domestic violence. He was a habitual felon. He already had a criminal record that was related to domestic violence, right? So now he had already killed somebody in 2004. He made 12 years for that killing. And guess what? System let him out, because you go in, you do your time, you get rehabilitated, you find Christ or you find Allah, whatever you do in prison, and then you come out, you're still a menace. He was a menace to society. Right now, there's a family and children grieving a mother because red flags were already there. Number one, this is what I tell people. You got to do background checks. You got to get them. Some people feel like, well, you can get background check. Get the background check. I don't care if it comes back clean. If it comes back clean, good. Because the reality is not every abuser is in the system. You know why? Because not every abuser has ever been to court. Why? Because a lot of times the victims drop the cases. In my truth and in my honesty, I never one time, I called the police. Police had been to my house multiple times, but I never went to press charges. I never took him to court, never went to get help. So the cycle systematically continued because I refused to take out papers, get a 50B, all of that, so he could have been in the system. You understand what I'm saying? So that he would have been in the system as an abuser. So a lot of these men and women that abuse aren't in the system, and they got a clean record. But in this case, this gentleman already killed somebody, habitual felon, record long. See, and I'm pretty sure before he killed. I mean, they were already arguing and fighting. So okay, but I'm pretty sure before that led up to that, them red flags was like this. But as women, and I'm talking to the women right now, talking to my queens, you cannot fix a man that abuses. You can't change him. I don't care how much you love him. I don't care what you do for him. I don't care what he does for you. If he is an abuser, baby, my queens, there's nothing you can do to change that man. Marrying him ain't gonna fix him. Having sex with him ain't gonna fix him. I don't care what you got going on. The money ain't gonna fix him. Nothing that you can do, because if that were the case, hear me, if any of those things were the case that would fix him, he would no longer be abusing you. If any of those things that I mentioned, King Jacob, were true, do you know how many people would be alive today? There are thousands of people die each year from domestic violence. And they stayed because, number one, and I was that victim, you have hope in the person you love. You hope that they're going to change. You love them so much that you're willing to just sacrifice and put up with it. And you're praying and you're calling out to God to change them and to fix them. And the number one thing I learned, and y'all forgive me if I start preaching, but the number one thing I learned regarding me, I had to look at me. I spent so much time on my knees praying for an abuser, but not asking God to change me. Not asking God to deliver me. Because that's what we do. We pray for people that hurt us. And we never pray for God to deliver us and to open up our eyes and our minds and to help us to get away and stay away, because it's toxic. We never do that. So I'm saying all of this to say it is worth getting background checks on people. I'm telling you, in most cases, I would say about, I'm gonna put a rough percentage here. I'm gonna say about 80 to 85% of them, you're gonna see it on their records if charges were ever brought against them. So it's worth getting a background check on people that you meet and you're interested in and you think you want to be involved with. It's worth the $10, $20, whatever you need to pay. And then and on that note, in some counties you can go to the courthouse and just I don't know if they're still doing that with the pandemic, but there in some counties you can just go to the courthouse and get on the system and plug a name in, and if you know their date of birth, plug it in, and you can find out if they have a criminal record. So it is well worth it.
Okay, I can dig it. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, the next live, raw, and uncut thing we'll be speaking about domestic violence in the church congregation. Stay tuned for more important messages. We're back once again. This show is definitely sponsored by Unique Blessings nonprofit organization there in Charlotte, North Carolina. We do thank Unique Blessings for sponsoring the Chatterbox with King Jacob. Much respect, much love, and much gratitude for all that you do for the youth and for the world of human trafficking, domestic violence, and sexual assault victims. So, you know, people sometime, Miss Iris, if you stay with me for a minute, I'm gonna bless you. People sometimes don't talk about what goes on in the church, in the pulpit, in the choir section, on the deacon board, on the usher board union, on the missionary board. They don't talk about, you know, how money is accumulated from the building fund, but there is no type of programs in the church for domestic violence victims, for sexual assault, for the absentee of a father, for the single mother who's struggling, or the single father who's struggling. You know, so if people think that there is no domestic violence in the church congregation, they not woke. Their eyes are glued shut. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a conversation, after church is over, and you talking to the ladies, and she's married to the pastor, and when somebody asks her something, the pastor answer every question for her. She has no say so. He gives her a look and say you. That look says you better not answer. That look says this is my church. You are to answer no questions about us, about our marriage, or about if you can go somewhere. I answer every question. So you tell me, since you advocate, are those not red flags in some type of domestic violence, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually?
Yeah. So those are definitely red flags. But to answer your question, have I ever experienced it? No, I have not. But does it exist? Yes, it does. It is very real. One of the things I always tell people is domestic violence does not discriminate. It does not matter your title. It does not matter your socioeconomic abilities. It does not matter your education. Okay, you can be a doctor, lawyer, teacher, preacher. Nobody is exempt from domestic violence. What's interesting about what you're talking about is I would often, when I'm speaking, when I go out to speak, particularly when I speak at churches, one of the things I always say is, I wish that there was a way that when people walk into the church doors and we're all smiling and we all have on our designer clothes, and we've got our hair done and our makeup done, and the whole 9 yards for the Sunday morning. I often say, if God could truly unveil the eyes of people, literally people would be fiberglassed by what they would see, because domestic violence walks into the church every Sunday. Domestic violence.
You're right. And
to the church every Sunday, from the pulpit to the pews.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's definitely right. Anytime a person is talking and the other person can give you a look, that's fear. That is fear. It is power, and it is control, and it lets you know that there is a problem. Okay, that person controls the situation. Number one, if she is talking amongst the other women, he ain't got no business over there anyway. But see, he's over there because he's trying to see how much information she's giving out, or if she's giving some sort of warning signs that, hey, I'm in trouble, I need help, right? So you see that all the time.
Right.
The thing that I want to relay on with the church is, I am, as an advocate, within the last 2 years, I am now seeing the church open its doors to conversations like this. I've had opportunities to speak at First Baptist Church here in Concord, North Carolina, on 2 occasions where they have taken the month of October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness, you all know. They literally opened their doors and let us come in. And we were having table conversations. Okay. The church is now more open to talk about sexual assault, right? We all know what has happened in the Catholic Church for years. And if we want to be honest, it's not just happened in the Catholic churches. It's happening happening in the Baptist church, Pentecostal church, holy church, holistic, whatever kind of churches you got out there. Sexual assault to children, young girls and boys and people, it happens everywhere. So it's just not, but the Catholic Church is just in the forefront of it. They're in the spotlight of it. But if the truth be told, that stuff happens everywhere. That's why you gotta watch your children. I don't care. Listen, I have a grandson, and I'm very protective about my grandson. You're not taking my grandson to the bathroom. If you're an usher, and I'm gonna take my own child to the bathroom. You see what I'm saying? People are comfortable, and so they'll ask an usher, "Can you take him to the bathroom?" It don't take but a split second for something to happen, even if it's just that touching, right? It don't take but a brisk second to touch somebody inappropriately. And then it continues and then it increases because now that child has gotten comfortable with that person. Listen, and they've gained trust because a child doesn't know. But they're familiar with the face, they're familiar with the voice, they're familiar with the touch, and they've gained trust with that person. Nobody takes my well, he's 11 now, but even now, if we're in public, if he say he got to go to the bathroom, guess where I'm at? I'm at that men's bathroom door. I'm at the men's bathroom. Right. You know, if he in there too long, I'm coming through that door. So I'm just saying. So, but back to the point while we're here tonight. There have been cases, King Jacob, within, I know about 2 years ago, there was a case where this pastor, well, she was a pastor, I think he was a deacon, but he killed her, right? They had gone to church, they had worshiped because the congregants were talking about how surreal it was. They had gone to church and worshiped that day, gone home, and he killed her. So the thing is, there were problems at home, but they come into church and preaching and worshiping like everything good. You know what I'm saying? And then you go home, and within the next couple of hours, you dead. We've seen cases where lawyers, a judge killed his wife in front of the 2 daughters, maybe about 2 years ago. And those are reports that I would have to go back and research because I'm always seeing these cases. But he was a judge. This is somebody who holds criminals accountable. People bringing cases before him, and he's judging on it. And you kill your wife in front of your 2 daughters. If you watch the news, you see these cases where the abusers are going into the hospitals where the partners work and killing them and other innocent people. So innocent people get killed in domestic violence relationships. One of the things I always tell people, and I hope that I get to go over this tonight. I don't know where you want to go after this, but I do have a listing of the current murders here in the state of North Carolina for this year. And one of the cases was a mother and a son were killed. And let me just share that real quick because I have that highlighted. And I'm going somewhere with this because I want to, like you said, we want to give people information. We want to save lives out here tonight. And so this mother was being abused by the boyfriend. And so her son had gone over to the house. Uh, Here it is. This happened on August the 31st, 2021 in Elm City, which is in Wilson, North Carolina. The victim, the victim's name was Raekwon. Raekwon Tyleek Williams was 21 years old. The alleged perpetrator was Adrian Tynell Horn, 43. So here's what happened. The 21-year-old Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams was allegedly killed by Mr. Horn while helping his mother move out of the home she shared with Mr. Horn. Mr. Williams and his mother, girlfriend, and sister were shot. Mr. Williams and his mother died of their injuries. So why am I telling you this? Number one, listen to me, people, queens and kings. Never, ever go to a home where the violence is happening. The best thing you can do is call the police. You want to call law enforcement to get there before you, because law enforcement is better equipped to handle that situation, even if, and I've got a case in here where standoff happened, even if gunfire is exchanged, they are equipped to handle that versus you. I see cases, this is not the first case, cases where family members go to a domestic violence scene because, if I call my mama, Mom, I need you to come over here. We're fighting. He's beating me up. He's doing this. My mama come over here. So you know what happens? I just put my mother in the line of fire. You're putting people in there you're putting people at risk, because number one, when people are angry, their mind is not stable. Okay. You don't know what they're contemplating. You don't know what they're thinking. But by the time you bring other people into it, you see what I'm saying? He went to help his mother and he's dead now, him and his mother. But other family members got shot. So I never encourage people to go into a live a scene where the domestic violence is taking place. You don't want to do that. The best thing you can do is call 911. And if you have to go, I wouldn't go inside. I would be somewhere near waiting for law enforcement to get there, and I would be praying. Me as an advocate, I make it very clear to my clients, I'm just an advocate. I'm here to assist you. I'm here to mentor you. I'm here to counsel you, but you cannot call me during a domestic violence altercation, because I can't put my life at risk and I can't come to help you. But what I can't, so I'm not the first person to call. Your advocate is not the first person to call. Your family is not the first person to call. But that's our mentality is to call, family, my mama, my daddy, my sister, my brother. But you need to be calling law enforcement because they are equipped to handle that.
Okay. So I know you have some things that you want to go over in your notes and whatnot. So I just want to touch base on the last thing, and then I'm gonna let you have the floor, and I'm gonna feed off what you say and ask some follow-up questions, if that's okay with you. Okay, so let's talk about domestic violence on the college campus.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it one more time. Domestic violence on the college campus. And it happens more than people think. Domestic violence, sexual assault, and rape on the college campus goes hand in hand. So it happens a lot, and it opens up a question and a window: are the young people really safe at college? Um, you know, cause the date rape drug came from the college campus. It circles all through college campuses, and so
Mhm.
and then, a lot of times when you have athletic guys, and they can be very controlling sometimes to these to these young girls on college campus, and so
Yeah.
domestic violence does happen in college.
Yeah.
Whether they're
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
through it mentally, emotionally, or physically, it happens. And so, with you being an advocate, I just want you chiming on that just a little bit.
Yeah. So the last statistical study that we are aware of is about 24% of uh, female, 24% of female college attendants are sexually assaulted, raped, and domestic violence. Okay. So 24%. So that means if you have a college student on campus, uh, there's a percentile rate of them being a victim to one of these crimes. So this is why open communication is very vital. It is very important for the student to have that open line of communication with parents and a trusted friend. Now, what we do know is that every college campus that we know of does have a resource center. They have resource officers. Say that a young lady, you know, because we're talking because and let me say this: when people hear me talking about women all the time, because you kind of opened that up earlier. 1 in 3 women are victims to domestic violence or will be 1 in 3. And then there's 1 in 10 men will be a victim to domestic violence. So this is why I'm a huge when I say, so I'm talking about the females on college campuses are at the highest risk of any of these assaults. But each college campus does have resource centers. So just say if a young lady is getting ready to leave the library of the college campus and she's getting ready to go to her dorm, there is a number that she should be able to call to get a resource officer or someone to escort her. But a lot of times, and this
Mhm.
should, hey, I'm assuming these numbers and information are given out at orientation, right? But sometimes a person may feel like, oh, well, that's not going to happen to me. That's not information that I need. But the information and resources are available on every college campus in the United States. Should be. And if they don't have the resources, they don't have the proper resource officers, then that needs to be reported so that, let me know
Mhm.
if your child, if your son or daughter is at a college campus and they don't have, let me know, because those are phone calls that I can make to the college and get those in place. So yes, they do happen, but I would want to say rape is probably the highest rate in all time at an all-time high on college campuses. Like you said, that date rape drug, going to the frat parties and meeting people that you don't know, not really aware of, and sometimes people get the wrong signals, you know, and sometimes check this out. A young lady meets a man and he's very promiscuous, and she's telling him no, she's not ready, she doesn't want to do that. But then he becomes angry about that, or he feels that she's let him down, or he feels rejected. That's the word. He feels rejected by that. Then that's how those rapes take place. Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
college
Mhm.
campus,
Okay.
domestic
So.
violence, rape, and assault, stalking, cyber stalking. We didn't talk about that. That's where people
Mhm.
are monitoring you on your social media links, handles. They could have trackers on your computer. There's so much out there that people are doing, that they monitor you and watching you. Cyber stalking can also be say that someone has pictures of you. This is why you got to be careful. This is why you don't send people, you don't sex, what they call it, sexting, where y'all are sexting each other, sending pictures. Because what they do is once they get mad at you and they don't get their way with you, they put all of that across social media. That's one of the things we call cyber stalking as well, or cyber abuse. Is where they start putting your photos, your naked photos, online, and everybody in the world sees you. You know, they're tagging their friends, and it's humiliation, right? So all of that does happen on these college campuses.
Okay. So, I want you to go ahead and chime in on a couple other more things because we're gonna be strapped for time here soon. So, I'm gonna give you the floor. I'm gonna let you educate us a little bit more. I'm gonna ask you some follow-up questions so you can break it all the way down to the level of your expertise. So you have the floor, Ms. Iris.
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to talk about really quick, I do have just when we go back into the domestic violence spectrum, some of the a batterer is the abuser or the perpetrator tactics. Batterers may use many tactics ranging from subtle intimidation to serious injury and even death to control their partners. Okay. One of the things I want to talk about real quick before I get into this is that when we talk about power and control, there are coercions, there's intimidation used in those, okay, right? Power and control. So the power is a person who strangles you. A person that strangles you is giving you a message, strangulation. And I want people to understand it's not choking, because a lot of people say he choked me. Choking is when you have an object inside of your throat that you literally, it's an object that you're choking on, right? Strangulation is when a person literally puts their hands around your neck, okay? And they're squeezing your neck, and in some cases you can lose consciousness or you're gasping for air. That's their control. They're telling you, I can let you live or I can let you die. It's in my hands. Your life is in my hands. That is the message. Wow. Please do not forget that, okay? There's also, they can use objects. They can use scarves. They can use belts. Anything that they can use around your neck to strangle you is serious, okay? So I want you all to remember that. Now, King Jacob, what we learned here is that most stranglers, they do go on to kill their victims. So anybody that has been strangled, you need to seek help immediately because stranglers have been known to go ahead at some point and they kill their victims. Now, check this out. They usually don't kill them by strangulation. They kill them by firearm. Most stranglers that have strangled their victims, they also commit mass murders, okay? Most of them, they have standoffs with the law enforcement. And unfortunately, there are some law enforcement officers that have lost their lives going out to domestic violence calls. You see? So if you are a victim listening to me tonight, or if you know a victim and they have told you that he strangles them, they need to get help ASAP. Help means getting with an advocate like me, calling the domestic violence hotline, getting resources, finding out where support groups are, finding out where resources are so they can get that help now, because it is statistical, it is factual that stranglers do go on to murder their victims at some point. And a lot of times it's not by the strangulation, they use firearms. All right. So we talked about domestic violence and we're breaking this down. Domestic violence is emotional and psychological abuse. What does that look like? Manipulating, intimidating, humiliating, name calling, put downs, threatening, blaming, denying the partner's response or perception. Okay, financial, economic abuse. What does that look like? Misusing, stealing, extorting the partner's financial resources, destroying the partner's property or possessions, refusing to help the partner when they are in sick or in need of medical care. So I know women that have been abused. They were injured, and the abuser would not let them go get medical help. Or in this case, if the abuser knows that a person, say they take medication for whatever reason every day, right? They hide the medicine. They hide the medicine so the victim doesn't have access to it. So these are real cases, all right? I had a situation, King Jacob, had a client some years ago who worked. He drove her to work. He picked her up from work. She wasn't allowed to drive to work. When she got paid, at this time, she was getting a paper check. He took her to the bank to cash her check, and she had to give him the money. And then he allotted her so much of her paycheck of what he thought she deserved. Real case. The physical abuse, shoving, slapping, hitting, pushing, grabbing, punching, backhanding, kicking, kneeling. I've done all of that. I was even spat on. That is assault. When someone spits on you, that is assault, and it also can be deadly because that person could have tuberculosis, that person, COVID, all kind of diseases come through that. And I was a person that was spat in my face multiple times. Assaulting with weapons. You can get pistol whipped. They can burn you with an iron. They can any object that they can get to, and they can assault you with it. Okay. Sexual abuse. What does that look like? Pressuring, coercing, or forcing sexual activity. Pressuring to get pregnant or to get an abortion. Attacking sexual parts of the body. Or hurting partners doing sexual acts, fondling, forced sodomy. If you don't know what sodomy is, inbox me, get with King Jacob, we'll let you know what that is, okay? Sodomy or sadistic acts, calling the partner degrading names. So, sexual assault, making you do something you don't want to do, something that's uncomfortable for you. That's sexual abuse. Here's the big one. Abuse through children, harming, kidnapping, threatening to harm or kidnap the children. I do have a case in our current domestic violence murders this year where 2 children have been killed through a domestic violence altercation. So it does happen. Using custody disputes to maintain contact through the court system. So I had a case a real case a few years back where one of the abusers took their infant child and dangled the child on the 3rd floor apartment. Was dangling their infant child on the 3rd floor banner.
Wow.
But the victim said, but I don't think he would have really hurt our baby. Sometimes it's mind-blowing to me. Again, don't underestimate a person because it happens. If anybody's seen For Colored Girls, we saw the scene where he threw the children out the window, and I know it was a movie, but this is stuff that happens still. Stalking, what we were talking about. Stalking. Going, what does that look like? Going to the survivor's home or place of employment. Following repeated unwanted contact. Sending unwanted gifts. Oh, listen, hiring an investigator or soliciting someone to stalk and follow you on their behalf. Listen, people will do anything. People will pay somebody to follow you and watch you and bring that information back to them. So these are, vandalism, using the internet. Remember, we talked about that. Using the internet to track communications, activities, or financial information. So these are real situations. All of this that I read are red flags. If you're dating someone right now, if you're married to someone right now, and any of this resonates, you are in a domestic violence relationship. Point blank, period. There's no other explanation for it. There is no excuse for it. It is what it is. You're in a domestic violence relationship. I want to say this real quick. According to the North Carolina Coalition data from January the 1st, and this has not been updated because there are more until October the 21st of this year, we've had a total of 63 total people killed, okay? Including a 9-year-old girl and a five-month fetus. That means that a victim was killed while she was 5 months pregnant, okay? Now, there are 2 weapons, King Jacob, that are the most common weapons used in domestic violence murders, okay? That number 1 weapon is a firearm, okay? I tell people, and this is statistical studies, if a gun is present in the home of people that are involved in domestic violence altercations, you are at a 700% chance of being murdered. I'll say that again. If there is a gun present in the home or in the relationship of people that are in domestic violence, toxic relationships, you are at a 700% risk, and that's a big, large number of being killed.
It is.
The number 2 weapon commonly used to kill victims is a knife. Okay, guns and knives, and then strangulation, and then the unknown. Now, out of these 63 total, there is 13 murder-suicides. What does that mean? That means the victim killed his partner and then he killed himself. Or the victim killed the partner and killed someone else. Okay? But usually murder-suicides are 2 people that are intimate partners that were involved with each other. So we have 13 of those this year, y'all. 13 murder-suicides. That's too many. Okay. There were 34 firearms used out of the 63 people killed. 34 firearms used out of the 63 people killed. There was 1 strangulation, 10 unknown, which means it could have been a blunt force object. They don't know what the object was that was used to kill the person. So I'm saying all of this too. And listen, age, anyone between the ages of 24 to 35. 24 to 35 are the highest domestic violence cases, okay, nationally known. But it does not have an age barrier. I've got people on this list that were 74 years old. 74 years old in domestic violence gone. Again, titles, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, no one is exempt. So we can no longer look and say, oh, well, he's a preacher. Oh, well, she's a teacher. Oh, well, he's a doctor. Oh, well, he's a firefighter. Oh, well, so we always say, you always look at a person and think a person is not capable of committing crimes. That's not true. Okay. leave this with your audience.
Right, right.
These are questions that I want you to ask yourself tonight. Do you see yourself ever afraid of your partner? Dodge topics to avoid arguing with your partner? Feel you can't do anything right with your partner? Believe that you deserve to be hurt or mistreated? Wonder if you are the one who is crazy in the relationship? Feel emotionally numb or helpless? Those are red flags. Those are red flags. Does
Mm.
your partner monitor your phone, your email, threaten to take things away you love and or harm them, including your children and pets? Pets are often victims to domestic violence as well. Blame you for their abusive behavior. Do they have a bad, unpredictable temper? Accuse you of cheating, hurt you, or threaten to kill you, hurt or kill you? Limit your access to money or transportation. Control where you go, what you do and say. Keep you from seeing your friends and
Mm-hmm.
family. Threaten suicide if you leave. We got cases where they say, if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself or I'm going to kill both of us.
Mm.
Force you to have sex against your will. Destroy your belongings. So those are all red flags. All red flags.
Mm. Wow. Ooh. It's a lot. It's a lot, but I want to thank you for the education and thank you for coming on the chatter box. But we'll definitely be doing a part two. I'll follow with you and see when you're available, but we'll definitely be doing the healing process after domestic violence.
Yes.
So
Please bring me back for that. Please bring me back.
I will, I
Domestic
will.
violence, yeah, domestic violence is so broad. There's nothing narrow in this. It is so broad. And healing,
Mm-hmm.
please bring me back for that, because the healing work has to take place. Because the thing that people don't understand, the number one question, King Jacob, a person will always say, well, why do you stay with that person? Well, she just need to leave. Well, he just need to leave her. It's not that easy, because you fall in love with those people, but you fell in love with them before
Mm-hmm.
most of the time before the abuse actually happens, you know? And
Uh-huh.
so people are
Uh-huh.
hopeful that we can
And
go back to day one. I just want him to go back to the way he used to be. I just want him to go back to the way when I first met him. You got to remember, he had his representative, or she had her representative in the beginning. That was not the real them. Okay. So they were showing a
right, right,
person that
right.
they weren't. They were pretending to be. Now you met the real person. Our girl Maya Angelou told us, she said, when a person shows you who they are the first time, believe them. But we won't do that. We keep trying to recreate narratives, and we keep trying to recreate these paintings of what we want people to be, of what we wish them to be, instead of seeing them for who they are and getting the heck out of there. Listen, the safest time for you to leave is in the beginning, when you first start seeing them red signs. That's the safest, because the longer you stay, the worse it's going to get, the harder it is going to be for you to leave, or you'll end up 6 feet under. I don't know another way. I told y'all, I keep it raw
Right.
and real. I can't sugarcoat something that's sour and bitter. The safest time for you to leave is when they first start showing those red flags. Get out. Get out. The longer you stay, you entertain it, you become addicted to it. Come on. You become addicted to the abuse and the pain. And you
Right.
end up somewhere your family got to be burying. And so my job, my assignment, and I'm so grateful and honored that you brought me on your show tonight. So glad you sought me, because my job is to bring life-saving information. I don't try to be harsh. I don't blame anybody, because I was a victim. I was a victim for a long time, almost 20 years. So I know how hard it is leave somebody that you love. But then you have to ask yourself, do you love you more than that person? So now I love me more than anybody that's going to abuse. And number one, and on that note, we have to understand God will never, God will never send you someone to abuse you and kill you. That is not of God. A lot of times we find these relationships and situationships on our own, and God ain't got nothing to do with it. Nothing. But what God will do is he will show you the red flag. He will give you the warnings.
That's right.
And it's going to be up to you what you're going to do with it.
That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely want to bring you back for the healing process after domestic violence, because that's something that a lot of people never really talk about. How did you heal? What made you heal? How did you regain your spiritual alignment back again? Because with facing domestic violence, spiritually, people are damaged. They're lost. They don't trust God anymore. God, how could you let this happen to me? So that healing process after domestic violence is very, 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 heartfelt, and it's something that need to be talked about, because a lot of people that's going through it, that's overcame it, but they're still in so much pain, they may need, footsteps and direction on how to heal. And so that's what I would like for you to come back on and share that thought process with us, and share that divine purpose on how you heal and how you overcame. You know what I mean? So salute to you.
I would love to come back. Yeah. I would love to come back, because the healing has to take place, but also healing takes work. It takes work. It is not easy. It takes a lot of work, and that's how I got to this point. But I would like to leave this with the people tonight. For someone that's out there tonight that's hurting, that's confused, you don't know what to do, you don't know who to talk to, who to turn to, I would suggest that you reach the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-7233. That is 1-800-799-SAFE 7233. There are so many advocates out there. Listen, a lot of you don't even know, whatever city you're in, whatever state you're in, every city has a domestic violence shelter. Every city in the United States has a coalition. In every state, there is a coalition against domestic violence. A lot of people don't know this, King Jacob, because they don't have the information. They don't have the resources. So thank God for you tonight, that's hosting this show, that's able to get this out there. There's a domestic violence coalition in your city. Go on the website, Google it, whatever state you're in, and you want to type your state, and then you want to type Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So for instance, North Carolina, Coalition Against Domestic Violence. South Carolina, Coalition Against Domestic Violence. California, Coalition Against Domestic Violence. New York, Coalition Against, so every state has a domestic violence program on hand. Also, there are states that have programs for batterers. So if you are an abuser on tonight, if you are a batterer and you really want to seek help, there are programs out there for you. In most cases, King Jacob, if a victim goes to court and he's found guilty, some states mandate that he attends a 52-week batterers program. So there's help out there for everybody.
Okay. Well, I just want you to let people know how they can get in contact with you, and let them know where they can find your books at, and let us know when the new book is going to be dropping as well.
Yes. So all of my books are currently available on Amazon. If you are an Amazoner, please go there. My first book title is called Breaking His Silence. Second book is called Dear God, It's Me, Jean, Uncut, Unfiltered, which by the way, is one of my healing books. I talk about, how I overcame. Okay. And then my
Okay.
third book was called 40 Days Alone with God, the Moses Experience. It's a prayer journal. It is the perfect time for anybody that's wanting to journal your prayers. Um, Anybody going through domestic violence, anybody going through anything personal or not, we all need to be praying. It's essential. So we want to be doing that. The fourth book is called Minding My Ruth Business. What single women should be doing while waiting for her Boaz. I thought I was going to be able to release that book the end of the year, but it's not going to release until probably the first of the year. And then there are more books after that. If you are a victim to domestic violence, you can reach me at 980 785-0587. That is my Google hotline number. Again, that number is 980-785-0587. That is a Google line. You can call me. You can text me through that. Set up consultation with me. First 30 minutes. I do give you 30 minutes of my time, and then we have to schedule thereafter. Also, you can email me at jeanbenton70@gmail.com. Again, that is Jean, Jean, Benton, Benton, 70@gmail.com.
All right. You heard it first. Chatterbox with King Jacob with the lovely author Iris J. Benton. I'm so thrilled that she came through to bless me with some knowledge and to really share some things about her life and how she's advocating and living with a purpose throughout her life these days, trying to save lives and help them convert to the healing process so they can move on with their lives. So, without further ado, we'll be letting you know when part two of it, surviving domestic violence, the healing process. And Chantel Evans says, thank both of us, but I will give her a shout out because she actually told me to contact you. She said,
Yes,
contact
thank
her. She's
you.
great. She'll be a great
Yes.
asset to your show. So shout out to you, Miss Evans, and shout out to Unique Blessing Nonprofit Organization. And thank you for all that you do. And thank you for this great connection. So without further ado, we're going to tell you guys good night. Have a blessed and safe weekend. And if you don't do anything else, remember to keep God first because he's the only one who can save you.
Amen.
Peace, blessings. Good
Amen.
night, y'all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.